G'day, Chiefs. Welcome to the Inner Chief podcast and the final episode of the year, a special mini-sode in your honour. I'm going to share today my personal annual review process. This is something I do get asked about quite a bit. How do I review my own performance, my life, my career at the end of the year? This is a process I've been using and refining for 20 years now. In the early years, Chief, my whole process of visioning was really simple. I'd go away to a cafe or somewhere in the mountains, often go camping. I'd sit by a fire or often have a beer or a glass of red, and I would essentially just go through a visioning process. Everything I ever wanted to do, be, and have in my life. And I would essentially just try and create a vision board of that. I'd take clippings and all sorts of things to create a visual board on my wall. And then I would essentially, throughout the year, I would just try and tick those things off one after the other. It was really simple, but I don't think I really had a quality review process. It was all focused on the future. And one of the other things about it that I think is interesting is it was a particular chapter in my life that was simple. Like, I had no family with me then. I had a really easy career. So I could spend a lot of time on executing some of the bigger projects, which is why I ended up doing some sort of out there kind of activities like running across deserts and living with Shaolin monks. That was easy back then. Not something I'd even sign up for right now, because I would say that the key over the years that I've learned, I think having the vision board is important. Having a regular check-in process over the year is important. But the one thing that in this process I'm going to share with you to absolutely get right is what we call personal congruency. I know I talk about being epic and doing crazy things and all that, but the truth is, as you proceed through life, if you don't have a congruency between your values, your beliefs about the world, your philosophies, your commitments that you hold most dear, if you don't have a congruency in that, then you're going to self-sabotage. It's like having an executive team that isn't aligned. Parts of you will pull in different directions, and from one point to another, it is going to be a struggle. When there's an incongruency to either the content of your vision or the order and the timing, then things start to go wrong, and it's frustrating, it's energy sapping, and it just doesn't get any flow. But when you get it right, and that is the right vision with the right amount of things in the right order, then guess what happens? We get a great amount of flow. You get this incredible momentum in your life, and you just feel like things are going really well for you. Now, I also have a bit of a mindset around this. There's two little mindsets that I've started using more and more over the years. In the early days, probably not so much. The first one is, I remember Bill Gates saying once, people overestimate what they can do in 1 year and underestimate what they can do in 10 years, right? So I take that and I'm always thinking to myself, just keep building like a book of work around my career and a set of rituals and traditions and memories at home, these things that create a life I'm really proud of. It's not about playing fast anymore. Well, I'm in the sort of the marathon middle years of life, and you can't do too much. If you do too much, the whole system and the whole idea of a vision just falls away and fails. So that's part one. It's the long game matters. Take your time with it and just keep adding. The second one is be bold and JFDI, right? There's a little saying I say a lot, which is don't ask, don't get. And I think in the early years, I probably carried a bit of fear. Maybe I didn't want to do something because how someone might feel about me. But you know what? These days, I just effing do it. I make a call out of the blue to someone, or I plan something and I try it. And if it doesn't work, I just don't care anymore. It's okay, take my lesson. No longer am I worried about what the repercussions might be, as long as it's congruent and I gave it a really good go. So have those two things close by. Maybe build your own. I love having your own kind of philosophies for life. And if you've never done core values and building your core principles and philosophies with us before, then get involved with Chief Maker and we'll teach you that part of the game, right? This mindset, though, is important. And the mindset you have has to be one that lifts you and gets you through the struggle of life and reminds you to just do something, right? Okay, so that's a bit of the background, some of the mindsets that I have, that I bring to this process. The process at a very high level is actually pretty simple. I don't like to overcomplicate this. So, Chiefs, I'm going to go through the frameworks in detail. There are a bunch of links. If you go to chiefmaker.com/379, it's all laid out for you there, the full process with links to the key parts. Okay, so Chiefs, the review process, as I said, is pretty simple. There's 4 parts. First part, complete your life and career scorecards. Do this lightly, but do it well. We have a life scoreboard. There's a process you can follow. There's a podcast. The link is in the show notes at chiefmaker.com/379. That is essentially creating a scoreboard for the key roles and key desires within your life, the key parts of your life. You give yourself a score out of 10 and you start to wonder, hey, why am I at that level? But don't do too much analysis just yet. Then I do a career or a business scorecard, potentially both if you're the owner, right? We also have a resource for this, Chief. Go to chiefmaker.com/scorecard, and there is a full scorecard in there which will give you an automated report about where you're winning and where you're losing. So, scorecards first, just like end of month financials. Get a scorecard for your life and your career, point 1. Step 2 is now conduct a structured reflection. Chief, this whole process, by the way, is best done completely without distraction. I wouldn't be doing it on the way home from work. I would be saying at the end of the weekend or away from everything with, if you love a beer or a glass of wine, crack that and really spend some time. Be quiet, put on some good music. Do not get yourself distracted. You don't want your phone pinging, right? Don't do it in front of sport. Get away from this and really give yourself the gift of time. So once you've done your scoreboard, part 2 is conduct a structured reflection. This is where we're starting to look for deeper understanding. Maybe even some patterns will be emerging about why you're performing and why you're not. We use a whole set of power questions. I've got a few listed. We use more than this, right? But it's things like, hey, what did we commit to? What actually happened? What explains the gap? Where was the greatest point of tension or friction this year in my life or my career? What was the source of that? What is the bottleneck in my life? What is a bottleneck in my career? What is a bottleneck in our household? If we changed one habit that would meaningfully improve life, what would it be? What would that be? What norms or expectations are we living by that no longer make sense? Where did we waste time or attention? What was the smartest decision we made? And when did we make the most progress? Under what conditions? So, Chief, that's just some of the questions. They're on the website, as I said, chiefmaker.com/379. You can check those out. Now, the idea is you pause there. You've got your scorecard, you've got your analysis. Take your time now and get a sense of where are the patterns? Where's the opportunity to make the most growth here? To make my life more congruent and better. Remember, it's not just about shooting the lights out every single week. That's a fallacy. It's about consistent, good, congruent, wise kind of living. And when you do that, life is beautiful. Okay? If we're running off, going too fast, not thinking about the consequences and being all in one area of our life and not in others, then you start to self-sabotage or things will come crashing down. Okay, step 3 then, Chief. You've done your scoreboards, you've done your analysis, is actually to either rebuild or review any prior vision. Chief, this is back in episode number 57. Chiefmaker.com/57 will give you how to do that. And it's a process where, once again, you slow down, you get away. It's everything you want to be, do, and have. Always be remembering what are your values and your philosophies for life before that. So this step is update, refine, build. I love visual. I like vision boards. I love written visions. I love a combination of the two. It's whatever works for you. Some people prefer one or the other. Doesn't matter. Build your vision. Make it cool. Make it congruent. Make it the life you really want to live. Now, if you're familiar with this process and you've done it a bit and you want something a little bit more edgy that challenges you, then I've got a little extension. And that extension is write your career or life eulogy. Work out who might give your final speech at work or your eulogy at your own funeral, and then write what you'd love them to say, right? And you can write that out. It might take you quite a bit of time. And then at the end of it, ask yourself, how likely is it that they would say that? Okay, that's a bit of a tough kind of process, but super, super valuable. So Chief, step 3 is refresh or rebuild your vision. And step 4 then is turn it into a practical plan. So we believe, and from our own experience, is that chapters are fantastic, either seasons or chapters. And a chapter is a period of your life of between 2 and maybe 3, 4, 5, sometimes up to 7 years where you have a certain particular focus. It is a theme, right? It might be the glory years of family, right? It might be all out at work. It might be there's a whole range of different chapters in life, Chief. And it's about the congruent mix of things at that particular point in your life, right? So the chapter before you have kids go to school will be different to ones when your kids are at school, and they're different again when they leave. Same with maybe where if you're at full-time work or transitioning to part-time work and a series of roles, different chapters, different congruency, different focus, therefore different plan. So Chiefs, build out a bit of a practical plan, because then that will tell you what is your focus in the next 12 months. And when you know what your focus is in the next 12 months, and you can see that there is an achievable, good set of congruent, energizing, awesome kind of activities and projects and things you're going to work on in your life that make you proud of who you are, and you say, that is me, right? And I'm being bold and I'm building something I'm really proud of, then you have a fantastic vision with wonderful chapters approach aligned to it. Okay. The final step is establish a quarterly checking rhythm, right? This was really important for me because what would happen is I'd set my visions like way back at about 2007. And then while I get things done, by the end of the 12 months, I drifted away a bit. So what I started doing was quarterly check-ins. And that for me is, honestly, it's a couple of hours. I get up in the morning early. I go and find a cafe up in the hills in Hinterland from where I live. And I just spend a few hours just rechecking in on the chapter and the plan and where I'm at, maybe redo my life scoreboard, that kind of stuff, and then refocus, right, and I'm back into it. It's not a long process. It's pretty short, but it does make a difference. So, Chief, the key here is we're not about perfection. There's no such thing as the perfect life, as the perfect person, right? I think we all know that. If you follow Chief Maker, you know that we're all about just doing the very best we can in the current state of our life, right? It's about doing what matters most and making that steady progress. So, Chief, look, I'm going to finish with my final little word, right? My little line that I love to ask, but I've just got to come back and check on myself. This question makes me question my congruency, how hard I'm pushing in certain areas of my life. Am I really going to be proud of myself when I finally get to the finish line? So the one or the little quote that I always come back to is, my biggest fear is that when I die, the person I am meets the person I could have been. Chief, that sums it up for 2025. So Chief, if you want to take your game to a new level in 2026, join me in the Mini MBA or the Council of Chiefs. This is going to be a cracking year. I'm super excited about it. And if you want to get rid of your isolation, join a group of energized, really cool people, then join me in one of those two programs. Chief, all the show notes can be found at chiefmaker.com/379. As always, remember to stay epic.